Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Awesome.
Good.
Came back from a great conference in Banff.
Yeah.
That was refreshing, change of pace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a good one. So we, I guess what Santa was alluding to is most of this week we were all as a team. We were all in Banff for the Real Broker Real Summit. This is kind of the first time that they've done a conference here in Canada, and it was great. It was really fun that it was in our backyard, in Banff. And we had, how many people do you think were there at the Banff Springs?
Felt like about 500.
Yeah, I think that was the limit for tickets was 500 or 550. Yeah. And I think they were pretty close to sold out. So,
yeah. We had all the leadership team there from the CEO, the president, the whole shebang. Yeah, Canada's a big deal for real. And considering that, we brought, I can say we brought it, we got behind it, I suppose, to bring it to Canada. So we didn't do it solely. We did it with the help of other people, but we had a good chunk to play in being responsible for bringing it to Canada. And that felt pretty good because, Michael, what were the stats? Like the Canadian agents play a big role in real across North America.
Yes.
You remember
I think the number of agents that we have relative to the US were 10 or 12% of the number of agents or so, I think. Okay. Yeah. But the amount of business that we do, the number of transactions and the dollar value of the business makes up close to 20% of the value. That being said, I think the leadership did made a valid point about Canada costing more to operate in. So
what's new?
Yeah,
everything costs more in Canada.
Made a few comments about the regulation and the guidelines that they're required to follow in Canada make things cost more here, and the number of people they need to staff to review deals and do all of that. Maybe the net return is not quite as good, but I don't mind, being in a slightly more tightly regulated system. I think that it's good for everyone. It's good for consumers to have a little more oversight and a little more care and concern to make sure that things are going smoothly. So, yeah.
So the short story is that real agents in Canada are twice as effective in.
You could say that, yeah.
Well, they are. I don't know if it's just the cold weather or what, but
you got to move fast, stay warm. That's right.
You know what I think, Sano and Mike. I think one of the things that I think that we've done well here in Canada is, and it's been led by, I think, our team, but then teams like Brad McCallum's group and a few others. I think the emphasis has still been so much on just surveying clients and just doing a good job. Whereas I think some of the other brokerages not necessarily are focused, they don't put that necessarily as a primary focus, I think, where I think that's been one differentiator. And it's been nice. And, I don't think we need to go on and on about the brokerage models and stuff, but it's been a really positive, collaborative environment. So.
Well, I'll say this about it. Just one point, and somebody pointed out to me, is that there wasn't one session, not even a word mentioned about recruitment, for example. Yeah. So it wasn't even a topic in any conversation. Yeah. It was all about being effective in serving clients and learning skills.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So today, we wanted to touch upon, what we did this week, which was, be at the Real Broker conference, Real Summit in Banff, which was great. It was cool to have a whole bunch of Americans and people from across Canada come and enjoy the scenery, even though the weather was a little bit cold. But we'd like to talk about just touch briefly on the market stats, within the housing market in Calgary, in the Calgary area. And then Mike, at the end, you want to just raise a few other topics. So we won't have a long conversation here, but I thought if I can technically get screen share going.
And just before we jump off of the conference session, we should also touch on that Real Broker just launched the luxury division, which is a really, I think it's a game changer for us. So, in order to compete with, admittedly, the likes of Sotheby's and Christie's, who kind of focus only on the high end, and they do a pretty good job of it. And I think the differentiator is where they go, what they have that some other agencies don't have is, the broad international reach, the glossy publications, the specialized websites and things like that. So Real will now have that. We'll have access to that, and we'll develop that. And I'm sure, based on what I've seen come out of Real so far, that we'll do a really good job of it, and probably likely better than the competition. So that was a real game. That was launched. That was a pretty poignant topic, I guess, this week. The other was, and this is a shameless plug.
Oh yeah,
they came out with the stats, and with I was the number one agent in Canada with the support of course, you guys. So that was a nice feather in our cap.
Yeah. Back to that, we had meant to mention that. I guess on top of that as well, you were invited to speak on the luxury listing panel that was there, and that was fun to watch. You get to chime in on how you got into working with luxury listings and what your experience is like on that front. So yeah, excited to see where that goes. And I agree. I think that Real, the way that, maybe if we were to draw on our experience with Real so far, not to, what's the word? Not to set expectations too low, but I think what I'm going to expect is that there might be a bump or two in the road in the first 6 months, but then after that, it's going to be growing like leaps and bounds ahead of the competition. There's going to be just giant gains. So I think for any of the early adopters that are getting into that division or are operating in that market, it makes a lot of sense to get in, because I think the reason that they have those bumps in the road is because they are taking input and feedback, and they're making changes and making it better.
Yeah, they're very responsive.
Yeah, so that we did find in Canada when we started, it was a little bit bumpy, but we also found that things got better really quickly because they responded to concerns and questions. And so if you're out there and you have a luxury listing, we're happy to grow with you as we launch that. So
I think I'll just add to that, Michael, good comments. I think part of the reason is that Real develops their own software. So our support is developed internally. And it's not third party. So I think it's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And Tamir and the leadership group in Real, they're built, their entire focus is supporting the agent rather than selling franchises, doing what a lot of other agencies do. So that's really refreshing, and we feel it on the ground.
Yeah. I think it's great. I enjoyed the panel discussion that you were on, talking about the luxury, your approach to the luxury market. I appreciate, and I don't know whether our clients sometimes appreciate the fact that we don't typically discriminate. We're happy to take on, a small condo listing, a single bedroom condo listing, but we will take on kind of the full gamut, and we will put as much effort into the smaller listings as the larger listings. I mean, obviously we kind of
Yeah.
customize our approach to each one, but we put as much thought as we can into the creative kind of aspect of trying to market the homes. And that was kind of like a common thread, I think, on that panel, I think.
There was a lot said. There was a lot that we didn't say that we talked about prior that we didn't get to say on the panel. And you're quite right. The biggest, I think, takeaway was that, how do you market a luxury listing? It's really a standard of service that we develop that it sets us apart. And it's a high standard of service. It's just like it's like no other. Like if you're at the difference between a 5-star and a 3-star hotel is really the level of service that you get. So. It's that pretty much nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, why don't we move on now to the stats there, Michael? Why don't you report back on what it's looking like as far as the daily housing stats that we've got for?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so hold on a sec. Okay, we're gonna share screen. Hopefully we're all right. Hold on a sec. Just bear with me here. Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that I'll say, since we're going to get into the stats, is that there were some comments from other people from different regions across. There were people there from across North America, and they talk about the market. And the market, when they talk about the market, it's kind of soft and it's kind of, and even when they talk, when I'll just say this, when the public hears reports about the Canadian real estate market being soft, I gotta say, that is not the case in Calgary. Certainly, it's not the case in Edmonton either. In Alberta generally. So real estate is local, and I don't know why we're just not getting as much press in Alberta as they are in the rest of the country. But it doesn't seem to tip the scales because they say that the market's soft. It's not in Calgary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the national media, and things kind of continue to get more consolidated in the media. They look at that Toronto and Ontario market, and then they look at the Vancouver market. They disregard. They don't really talk too much about what's happening in Maritimes or in the prairies. And you're right. Like we definitely are. When the Toronto's booming, we are not necessarily booming, and vice versa. And it's not just it's not a mirror image, but it is different. So yes, I can appreciate your comments there. Now, okay, so with that said, the current daily market housing stats here are in front of us. And so as you can see, like we're looking at May 2024. So this is like month to date stats right here. So right now, new listings, we're up 20%, which is, to be honest, is really great to see. I would say like it's creating a little bit more balanced market. It's still a seller's market, but it's a little more rational. Obviously compared to 2 years ago, we're still down 35% on active listings. But compared to last year, we're up a little bit. So it's nice to see. Obviously, benchmark prices are still a lot higher. When you guys look at these stats, what do you guys see that really jumps out at you?
I mean, we're getting almost 12% a year price increases.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. And but like you said, it's a refreshing change to see some new listings coming on the market. Michael, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, I think my takeaway is that these statistics sort of mirror what my feeling has been in the last couple of weeks, is that there are more listings on, and things are hanging just a tiny bit. So I don't think I would ever venture to say that the market is slowing down, but it's not as just ridiculously tight as it was. And maybe there's some opportunity for, in fact, I heard or saw just a video the other day of that. If we might possibly be in a short window where buyers might be able to take advantage of the market, where if prices are coming down, interest rates are coming down in the next 6 months, which is what some people have said maybe. And if there are slightly more listings on the market now, there's maybe this short window where a buyer could, if you have a long enough possession, you could potentially, with a rate hold, get in, buy a place, And then by the time you actually take possession, the rates might have come down a tick or two, and you can, I mean, not, I think, Dad, it's fair to say that we would never, ever counsel anybody to try to time the market. I've heard you say a number of times, the best time to buy or sell is when you have to, and not ever trying to time the market, because that very rarely ever works. But there might be a window of opportunity here for somebody to take advantage of a unique set of circumstances that haven't been present for the last, say, 2.5 or 3 years.
Yeah, at least you could buy a house today possibly and not be in, have 4 competing offers this weekend. So,
Maybe. Possibly.
Yeah. So that's a good news story.
Yeah. I just in my own neighborhood, just in Glendale here, we all of a sudden we saw a few more listings pop up, and all year it's been like you could count the amount of listings in a neighborhood of 1,000 houses, on one hand, on 3 fingers, like, so it's nice to see, it's just nice to see that a little bit more healthy, a slightly leaning towards a balanced market. It creates not such stressful conditions for buyers and sellers, frankly. I think, like, I mean, sellers, obviously they want to, maximize and optimize their dollar, but it's still very healthy. So anyways, we can move on from this. Actually, I want to make one last comment. I think, we have so many buyers, so many people moving to Calgary. I think there were 60,000 people in the last 12 months that moved to Calgary, which is just absolutely crazy. It was like a 6%. I think it was, like a huge increase in our population. Almost the same in Edmonton, which is great. You can see Edmonton is a little bit cheaper market. So, I think probably opportunities for some people to move to Edmonton, but Calgary is pretty unique. It's a pretty fantastic place. It's closer to the mountains and whatnot. But I think you see also buyers shifting to other types of homes. You see the apartment, the condo market really starting to get strong. Wouldn't you say, guys? Like, I mean, we're seeing it right now. Like there's all of a sudden there's multiple offers on condos. And that hasn't been the case for a while.
Yeah, condos were soft for what, 5 years? Well, longer than that.
I would say longer than that. Yeah,
2015 to the current, so almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And that you're right. In the last year, they've just started to. There's a bit of a hockey stick.
Yeah.
The other way.
And actually, that's not something we had prepared to talk about, but might be worth mentioning, just, Dad, because of a meeting you and I had this morning, is that even when things are getting more competitive and are stronger on the condo market, there are still things you can do to prepare for a sale that, if you don't do them, could prevent or hold up a sale, or at the very least get you, a lot less money than you're hoping to get out of it. So maybe just touch on that briefly. The couple of things that you can do for condos. There's the regular stuff, you fix all the little odds and ends you've been waiting on for 6 months to do. You do a quick paint job, you stage it, and you clean everything up. But on the administrative side, certainly making sure that the condominium documents that you have in 15 different places in your home, or in emails going back 3 years, getting all of those in one place and ready to present as a package can really streamline and make a sale go much more smoothly and effectively. And having somebody give you some guidance on what you need and what you're missing can be really helpful.
Yeah, really good point. Getting all those, making sure that the reserve funds and everything are in order. You've got all the documents, because getting, as we all know, we know too well here in this room, is that the work, getting the offer is only that starts the work. Then you've got to get all the conditional, through the conditional period, and a lot of that is a condo doc review. And these guys, they go through them pretty thoroughly. So if you're missing something, you'll get a sale. And then what happens in a hot market? You don't want to do that in a hot market, because you'll achieve maybe full price or a good price or even over list, And then you go through the condo doc review and you're missing something and the deal doesn't go through. Now you're maybe, 10 days out. You've lost your momentum. You're back on the market and now you're back on, you're going to get, it's going to cost you maybe $5,000 or $10,000 where, you don't have that same
momentum. Yeah.
The same momentum that you had when you were first out of the gate. Right. So,
and you got to explain or account for that deficiency. I mean, when you're dealing with a condominium, an absence of a particular condominium document for a lot of buyers is considered a deficiency. And so you have to factor that in either by way of closing that gap or accounting for it in the price, or, you have to find a way to have that prospective buyer accept that deficiency.
Yeah.
And either you can explain it away with, whatever set of circumstances, or you have to make the case compelling for them some other way, which unfortunately is often by way of price.
Yeah, really good point, Mike.
So Michael, you wanted to talk on another topic, just so I want to turn it over to you.
Well, really, I just wanted to, I guess, echo what Santa was saying about the markets in general. I mean, when we were at the conference in Banff for real, so many of even at a conference that is specifically for Canadian agents, even there, it's such a national or it's such a broad take on the markets that to get down to a regional and what I felt like was accurate perspective on the market, just it wasn't there. And again, even despite the fact that Alberta was the first market that Real opened up in, and we are the largest market right now.
Yeah.
Strangely, funny enough, the focus still seems to be shifted to, Vancouver and Ontario, or Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah.
They talk generally about, there was a few comments. How do you feel about the market? How is it? One person I heard say tough, which I would echo here is, it can definitely be tough. But someone else said, slow, or something else that just didn't at all resonate for me as a real estate agent in Calgary, because that's not at all what we found.
Yeah,
so
that was a lot of that too. A lot of that. And it was weird. It was kind of
it was, it just felt, it feels so strange, and it feels so out of place. I didn't go to the conference in the States last year, but I did the year before that. And even there, I think they were talking about things starting to slow down. And it was just as things were really picking up here and getting crazy. And they're talking about, strategies to how to deal with a falling market. And I'm like, guys, we're here too. And we're not, how do we properly manage competing offers or disappointed buyers or other things that are just not reflected in a falling market? Yeah. That's what I found, again, even in a Canadian-centric focused conference.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just like the, what's the word for it? Like the Western sentiment, feeling left out of what's happening in the decision-making parts of Canada.
Sure.
Maybe it's just that as a whole that we all feel here sometimes, but
that's okay. That's okay. I think, at the end of the day, we just, here in Alberta and Canada, or sorry, in Calgary, we just are beating to our own drummer and just sort of forging ahead. And, I think, I don't know, like it just highlights like how important it is just to be in touch with the local market, with your local market, and how it is sometimes it almost all the time, it's completely or somewhat divorced from what is being talked about in the media. So I think this is one useful thing of just sort of like having these live streams, where we can talk about the current market, how it is going, the current conditions, because, you know, obviously we're going off of stats, but we're also going off of like kind of what we're feeling within the market, which is actually really quite meaningful. It's quite, it's not a lagging indicator. It's like actually a very, very current indicator, you know?
Well, I'd like to actually put a pin in that, because what I was thinking when you were saying, you guys were talking about this, was we, for example, at our meeting last Friday, where, you know, we had all the agents around, we meet at this sort of a restaurant, and the sentiment around the room was like, so what are you feeling? And everybody's like, I'm not sure, I kind of feel like the phones haven't been ringing quite as much, and we kind of, was actually the leading indicator. And I've always said that the leading indicator is how much my phone rings. That's, you don't take the news from the Herald or something and then say, oh yeah, this is what's happening in the market. Like, we are on the leading edge of what's happening on the market.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to trust your gut and but also the other point, that to Michael's point, well, you're both Michael, but to my son's point, is that the real estate, is local. The market is local. And even so, I was talking to somebody about our local market in our community of Briar Hill, and it can range like a couple of $100,000 from one block to the next. If you're on this block, values just seem to be set here. If you're on this other block, they're set there. So, it really does. Markets vary and fluctuate wildly depending on local characteristics, and you have to be aware of that. And that it points to the value of a good realtor, I guess.
Yeah. One other, like, I mean, you mentioned that, like, absolutely, like from block to block, it changes from street to street, from like, like this section of this block. One of the huge hot areas right now, and I don't know how it's going to shake out in the future after this upzoning legislation, but in the city of Calgary, but like, the price of lots that you can now build, like, let's say, turn a single family home in an inner city neighborhood into, a multifamily, like those types of lots are absolutely skyrocketing in value, or at least they have been. I don't know how it's going to be affected by this upzoning, but it's kind of shocking what the prices, the sale prices have been. It's just shocking. Like,
I'll touch on that just briefly, because we did a study on that, and it was like 37% in Killarney and in Mount Pleasant. So immediately when you upzone it to RCG, 37% increase in value, because builders could pay that much more to accommodate that many units. So they're paying, as we know, like there's a metric in the market, $50 a buildable foot. So if you can build more square feet, you can pay more. You can pay $50 per buildable foot, so you pay more for them. So it's okay. I won't get political, but it's not going to have the desired effect. The blanket upzoning is only going to increase prices, not actually provide affordable housing. That's all I'm going to say about it. So,
No, I mean, it wasn't quite on the agenda. We won't talk about it. We can talk about it in another day for sure. But anyways, it's interesting. I think that the next thing on council's agenda, I guess, is like, they're contemplating giving an incentive of $10,000 for building secondary suites, which I think that is one of the really important answers to actually creating more affordable housing. Actually having more secondary suites that are like safe, that are legal, and also having the city step up to give an incentive for homeowners to do that. I think $10,000. I think in Vancouver it's like $30,000 or $40,000 that they're giving as an incentive. I would like to see a higher amount, frankly, but I think that's one initiative I think that is in the right direction.
I agree. Good points.
Okay, guys. It's been 29 minutes we've been on. We should probably wrap it up. Any other comments or anything?
I think it was great. Good discussion.
We started late and we should probably finish early. So let's we'll wrap it up, and thanks for joining us if you did, or watching us if you are tuning in later on. And if you have any questions about your local Calgary real estate, please feel free to reach out.
Reach
Yeah.
out.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye for now.
See you later.